Hey, welcome back to a midweek episode of YOML. Today we're talking about episode 156, lesson 156. So it's a book that we don't particularly want to talk about, but I think reflection is going to be great. Let's talk about philosophy.
Yeah, let's dive into it, man. This is a philosophy book that snuck up on me. I didn't even know it was a philosophy book. So this book is what we're going to be talking about is a book called 101 Essays That'll Change the Way That You Think by the author Brianna Wiest.
Did,
And
did it change you?
It did. The reflection title is this book did change the way I think in one important way. So we'll get to what that is. I started the book's a compilation of her published of her philosophies on life, basically. Pursuing purpose and embracing negative thinking, as you see in the description, seeing the wisdom in daily routine, becoming aware of cognitive biases, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the stuff that we talk about, right? So it was interesting. I don't know. The title was provocative, and I actually didn't know what I was getting myself into when I started this book. So after about I don't know. I started this reflection off by saying, if you followed along with this journey, and our journey, that we've talked about a lot together, you'll notice a common trend of you and I, and me in particular, I would say, I think me more than you, and in a lot of ways, is I hate philosophers. And you say it way better than I do. Like you don't hate philosophy, you hate philosophers, and that's
Yes.
true, because a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is our philosophy on life and our art of living, and our how we express our purposes and values and things like that. So like, don't get me wrong, somebody could call us a philosopher, potentially, and I would do the Mufasa, but you could say that. I don't know what it is about philosophers. I mean, I'm not going to rehash it today, but just know, baseline, if you haven't tuned into any of our other episodes, or read any of my other reflections, like I just something about it just really grinds my gears. As soon as I know that I'm into a philosophy book, it's like my brain just shuts off. It turns to mush. Like, I don't know that I've ever read a single philosophy book from the philosopher, that's just their book, that I remember a single thing from. I'm not even joking. I'm talking like books like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, or this book, or Walden Pond, Walden Pond, or whatever, Walden, I forget what it's called, the full title, like by Henry David Thoreau.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, literally, I don't know any of it. I mean, I don't remember a single damn thing about these books, because I'm just like, it's just in one ear and out the other a lot of times.
Mhm.
They don't tell stories. Like they're just it's just stream of consciousness talk, and there's no stories to it. It just drives me nuts. It just doesn't resonate.
It's like if you have two and you take away one, you're left with one. Well, duh.
Thank you. And then they move on to another topic, and then there's no continuity, there's no story, there's no connection between the next thought to the next thought to the next thought. There's no build on each other. You know what I mean? Like, there's just nothing. There's no arc. Like, I mean, like, they're not storytellers. Like, they just suck at getting their position across, and making it resonate for me. Now juxtapose that with like books, the Geography of Genius, or the Socrates Express, or even Will and Ariel Durant's books. Like, I actually appreciate them, because they're looking at things from more of a like a holistic view, and they're trying to weave a story around what they've heard, and an arc around like the philosophies that they've studied, and to try to bring it all together. Like, I don't mind the study of philosophy. Like, I don't mind the study of other philosophers, and trying to put it all together into a story arc, because then it still resonates with me. But like, just straight content from a philosopher just drives me nuts. So anyway, now that rant's over. The what ended up happening with this book
So is
is,
this author a philosopher?
yes. So what ended up happening with this book was, I got unknowingly duped into a philosophy book, and I didn't know it. Like, I downloaded it, the title was provocative. I don't even know that I read the description. I was like, this sounds interesting. Like, I don't know what this is about, but I'll give it a go, And I was like, I don't know, maybe 7 essays into this thing, and I'm like, what am I reading? Like I was like, what did I get myself into with this? And I was like, a part, it just I was like, oh my god, I'm in a philosophy book. I mean, I'm not even joking. Like there was a moment where I was like, oh no, this is a philosophy book. I was like, what did I get myself into? So immediately when I read this, because I mean, obviously when I think of philosophers, most of the time it's usually like an old white man, right? Like it's usually like Walden or it's
Somebody
Henry David Thoreau.
twice, and who's trying to guide you to the world that you live. You're trying to swim in. And the thing is, philosophers, they take their philosophy
Mhm.
and they thrust upon to you, say, hey, you need to take this road and you shall behave this way.
Right.
And if this attitude is what I don't like,
Drives me
right?
nuts.
It's not the philosophy. Everybody has philosophies, right? The philosophy is the core values that which they believe in, which they live on, right?
It's turning them into words. Yeah.
That's fine. That's just
Yeah.
fine because, but not everybody. Just say I'm a beaver. You say, hey, be like me, run fast, like be swift like the wind, like the cheetah. So the cheetah tell, like the
Right.
philosopher cheetah tell me as a beaver, hey, why are you spending all your time in the little, you know, fluid thingy that is it's cold. I don't like it. You shouldn't be in there.
Right.
You're not very smart. Be like me. Be swift like wind. Like be fast, be nimble, be flexible, be ferocious or whatever, right? That's the philosophy. They're telling you how to be them. But the
Right.
thing is, my problem is I don't want to be you. I just want to be me.
A hundred
You're
percent.
asking me as a beaver to be a cheetah, or be a sloth, or be
We
a,
just talked
a
about this yesterday.
lion.
It's the love languages, right? It's the you can't come into me, and demand that I learn your language, like because I have no context of where your language came from. I don't care. Like I mean, if you're
I,
walking into my universe, like you're in my universe now, Grandma. It's like you need to talk to me.
Yeah, but the thing is, like I say, it's interesting to understand the cheetah's perspective. But
Right.
don't tell as a cheetah, don't
Don't
tell
tell me to be a
me
cheetah. Yeah.
to
Right.
be a cheetah because
Right.
that's just silly. I don't have your skills. I cannot be you,
Right.
right? That's the thing I have against philosophers is because if you have a philosophy of your own, you express them, but don't force it on anyone. If
Right.
you do, then you are in the camp where I say, well, you need to stay away from me before I punch you.
I could not agree more with what you're saying. Like, and I think you say it very eloquently too, because like also there's no context to any of where the philosophy came from, right? Like, I mean, they like they're just telling you what their philosophy is, and like that's great. Like, I appreciate the idea, but I don't get. I mean, like, I'm not. I mean, even I could spend 10 hours with you,
Yeah.
your book, and I still don't understand where this came from. You just told me the outcome of where you're at right now with where your mind's at, and like I don't know all the buildup as to how that got there. Like that's one of the reasons why I love this journey is you're going through it with us. We are talking about philosophy this entire time, right? The art of living, like the art,
Mhm.
understanding ourselves, understanding how to turn your values into action and what that means and purpose and all this other stuff, right? But you're seeing the progression where that knowledge came from, what the lesson was that was learned, and then a story around each one of them, like a little mini sub story, that you can see us building on this as we go, right? Which is the beautiful thing for me of this journey is I mean, we're definitely, if you just took one single snapshot and you tuned into one of these like podcasts with us or something like that, and you were like, oh man, these guys are exactly what they're talking about right now. Like you would be missing the entire point because like you need to start at the beginning and then go all the way through this with us and see how each one of these builds on each other and where the background of all this is and the stories that go into make up where how to tie a lesson into a life, and how you're going to live it going forward, right? Like I mean, there's so much more than we're doing than just philosophy in this and what we're doing, in my opinion. Which is why, once again, I wouldn't call us philosophers. We're more like explorers, like we're just out there, on a quest, right? Like, and we happen to be on the same quest together, and we don't know where we're going, but we know how we're gonna get there, and we're gonna leave some trail along the way, right? And people could follow along with that journey, which is cool, right? Like,
Right.
and yeah.
We were just recording our journeys, document what we see, what we learn, how we get from there to here, and we don't know
Mhm.
shit, right?
Right.
I don't know shit. You don't know shit. And so I'm not going to tell you that my philosophy is a right one. I'm saying is I explore mine. This is how I do it. Maybe it'll give you some inspiration to find the way that you think your inspiration for yourself. That's the only thing I'm advocating. I'm not advocating to do exactly what I do. Don't take up my core value because it's my
Right.
core value, it's not yours.
Right.
If
I'm a cheater.
it happens to align, great.
Right.
If I'm a beaver and you're a fish and our core value is water, then yeah, great. Let's have fun together in the pond and whatever.
Right. Right.
But I'm not expecting you to be a cheetah and say, hey, jump into the pond. Why are you so? You must be in the pond. You must be
Right.
in
You
this
don't get it.
there.
The pond. It's about the pond,
It's
man.
about
You
the
know, and they're like,
pond, right?
and then they're
You're
like, what?
missing out on life. Life is
Yeah.
about being in the pond, being freely swimming. To
Right.
me, that's absurd from the perspective of the cheetah looking in and say, "What the hell are you talking about? You're one crazy dudes."
Right. Yeah.
Right?
And
And so to me, that's how I would represent this whole thing, right? Philosophy is your opinion, is your perspectives
right.
on life,
It's your paradigm. Yeah.
your foundation, your
Yeah.
paradigm, your map.
Right.
That's
Right.
that's what, and everybody has it. It's
Agreed.
just that don't enforce it on someone else because it's not you're not them and they're not you.
Right. Well, hang on. We'll put a pin on that one because this that goes into my one big thing that I learned from this. So back to the story of this book, right? So I'm like a quarter of the way through it or whatever it is, and I realize, uh-oh, I'm in a philosophy book. Like, I go, for some weird reason, like I said, the name Brianna Wiest, like, I don't know who she is. Like, and when I realized I was in a philosophy book, I was like, this isn't Rousseau, this isn't Thoreau, this isn't Voltaire, this isn't Socrates or Plato, somebody that I just immediately am going to be like, oh yeah, no, I know, okay, all right, I at least know what I was getting, or Marcus Aurelius, I at least knew what I was getting into going into this. This was a name, Brianna Wiest, and
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know who this is. So I immediately, if I'm going to listen to somebody's philosophy, I was like, I at least want to know a little bit more about him. So I Googled her, right? And
Mhm.
and what I found out was she's 27 years old, and I was like, how and this is when my brain got really fucked up. I was like, how the fuck is a 27-year-old gonna write a book about philosophy, about the art of living when you're 27? Like, what do you know when you're 27 years old, right? And this is when it got bad for me though, because I was like, I just couldn't
I
get that
mean,
thought in my head.
life is like a box of chocolates. You never
I
know
I
what you're
I,
gonna
I
get.
agree. So let me get to my. I gotta get you through to my lesson, my one big lesson that I learned in this book, because it took me a while to get there. And so the rest of so I was like, look, now that I realized I'm reading a book by a 27-year-old about philosophy, and I'm in a philosophy book, and I'm like, shit, I was like, what, this is where my mindset is going. And then I remembered, like, what is this journey about, right? This is about, living your values, right? This isn't about like, every book's going to be a home run or whatever it is. And I just remembered what Amelia taught me. This is about and embracing my values, and endure is one of my values, and challenge myself is another one of my values, and learn something every day is one of my values. And I was like, look, this is what matters for this journey. So I'm gonna give it a shot. We'll just see what's going on. I'm gonna finish the book, and because that's what I signed up for, and that's what this journey is about. Is living your values. So I went through the rest of the book, and as I was going through it, for whatever weird reason, I just could not get that thought in the back of my head. It was like embedded in the back of my head. Like every time I would hear a message from her, I was like, she's 27 years old. Like, and I'm like, I just don't understand how this is, how she knows any of this stuff, or how she has any context for it. Because once again, not a lot of context in a lot of these things. Now, I just want to be clear, like I actually kind of like some of the stuff that she was saying. Like, she talked a lot about, like, topics like that we talk about, like values and purpose, and patience, and like, she had a lot of really good thoughts and ideas, honestly. I mean, and so it wasn't that I wasn't enjoying what she was saying. It was just that, like, I just, for whatever reason, like I said, it was just embedded in the back of my brain. So along the way, I finally learned my lesson, as we got about halfway, three-quarters through the book, and I was like, why is this bothering me so much? So I started to, like, dig deeper into this and try to figure this whole thing out. And what I ended up coming up with, my big lesson that I learned was, always remember to be open to hearing all voices out there in the world that are brave enough to share their thoughts, regardless of background or age or sex or race or ethnicity or gender or whatever it is, because like I don't have to agree with you, and I don't have to, I don't have to do anything, but like I should strive to check my own biases and preconceived notions at the door and just listen to what you have to say, right? Like, because that's what we talk about a lot, and that's what we, and because I do really believe that, like, it is brave for Brianna Wiest to go and write this book. I don't know where these thoughts came from her. I don't know what her background is. I don't know. Maybe she had her own atomic bomb in her own life, and she learned these things at a really young age. I don't know. Like, but for whatever weird reason, that idea of that 27-year-old, in my head, I was like, that's not a philosopher. That's not somebody that's lived a life enough where I feel that they are due the respect. Now, if she was 90 years old and saying the same thing, I'd be like, oh man, she's a pretty smart old lady. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, she's got a lot of wisdom to share. So long story short, I mean, we've already talked about this as well. Like, people could call us philosophers, because we're doing a lot of, similar stuff here, right? Like, and we're talking about similar topics, and you could say, well, Chris is only 37 years old, like when I wrote this, I'm 38 now. Chris is only 38 years old. Like, what the hell does he know? And to be fair, that's a totally valid challenge, right? But also, if you follow along with any of this whole journey, you'll understand where a lot of this stuff is coming from, because there's a lot more context behind a lot of everything. And that's the important part about all this stuff, right? Is like, if somebody's willing to go explore their thoughts and share those thoughts of this world, like, I am happy to go take the ride with them. And I apologize to Brianna Wiest, if she ever reads this or hears this, or whatever it may be, because like, it took me an entire almost book of listening to her thoughts before this clicked in my own head, of the corollaries to what we're trying to do as well. And I appreciate her bravery for sharing her thoughts, and if somebody else wants to as well, I will always listen, because that's what we're here for. We're here to learn, and we're here to listen. We're here to be open. If you're willing to share, I'm here to listen. So that was the one big thing that changed the way that I thought, that I learned from Brianna's book. So anyway, I'll cede the floor, and love to get your thoughts.
So I think maybe I'm not gonna talk about the lessons, but I want to talk about the philosophy in general. I don't care if you're the freaking emperor of Rome. I don't care if you're 1,000 years old. I don't care if you're 1 years old.
Right.
If the philosophy that you profess makes sense to me, then it has value to me. So whether Brianna Wiest is 20 years old, 27 years old, 30 years old, 100 years old, I don't care. As long as if her message is something of benefit to you, then that's what you should consume,
Agreed.
regardless of whether or not she is a young person, an old person. A person can be 100 years old, but no shit
Right.
compared to
Right. That's true.
somebody. I mean, one of the saying I keep saying is you can have you either have 20 years of experience, or you can have 1 year of experience repeated 20 times.
Right.
It's a big difference. Big
Yeah.
difference in those two. So a person can do the same stupid shit for 100 times every year for 100 years, and you still have a shitty philosophy,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah.
Or you can take that philosophy and you learn and make progress in 3 years. A 3 years person will outvalue the person with 1 year but repeated 100 times. 100-year-old philosopher that does the same stupid shit that never learned from himself will never compare to a person who is 17 years old and learn for 3 years and continue to build upon that three and become at 20 years old, can be a better philosopher than 100-year-old, guru, quote unquote, right? That is how I feel about philosophy in general. To me, philosophy isn't about the universal principle of things, because
Mm,
you can't say be like a wind, be swift, be like the cheetah, be strong like a lion, be strong like an ox, be
right. Be water.
be be whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's who are you, right? And kind of um what kind of advice can you get from people who are like you, who give you the value that you can use? I can't take the recommendation from a cheetah and apply it because I don't have his physical traits. I don't have his characteristic, his character moral, his tenacity, his wanting to excel. I just can't do it. I just, regardless of how much I wanted to, if I'm a beaver, I just can't do it. So to me, the value is always relative to who it is that gives you that. So to me, if Brianna gives me this great philosophy that resonate with me, then yeah, I will follow Brianna. But if she spewing out all these shit about whatever, I'm not. I haven't read her stuff, so I
Right.
can't. I'm just making a point here. Regardless
Right.
of how old she is, it's meaningless to me.
Yeah.
So
No,
so 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 you can compare Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, I would say one of the best emperor in Roman history, right? Compared to Brianna Wiest, what if this guy is better than Brianna Wiest, Brianna Wiest is better than it is all relative. It's not to say, hey, eh, universally, Marcus Aurelius is better than this 27-year-old, gal from, I don't know where she from, but
I don't
from,
actually know. Yeah.
but I'm just saying it's it's relative to somebody. She's the best role model,
Yes. No, she
right?
is. I mean, like,
To somebody, Marcus Aurelius is the best role model. So it depends on who it is giving you the advice and whether or not they have your common traits.
I could not agree more. And
I'm not
as you
gonna
were,
ask a monkey how to swim.
right.
I go ask fish. That's what I'm saying.
Agreed. It just dawned on me too. Like, you said something that was like that deeply resonated with me personally of I mean, the best philosopher that I've ever known was a 40-year-old baby, a 40-day-old baby, like, I mean,
Exactly, and
she
regardless
she
of the
she
age.
couldn't even speak, and she taught me more than about life than anybody's ever taught me,
But
and
I mean,
like,
look at the impact she's made. I mean,
yeah,
Cleverly
man.
is the result of that baby.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is. I mean, it really is.
You think
And
about it.
this
That's I mean,
conversation's a result of Amelia. I mean, everything that I do is a result of her. Like, she's taught me how to live a life, and she and I and I'm do it with her every single day. And I promise her that I will always do that because she is somebody that I want to always
and
emulate
and
and try to honor.
she
It's
and
40 days
she
old.
and she is somebody's hero. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly my point.
Right.
She is somebody's hero.
Right. Age is irrelevant. I mean, like, this
It's
is what I said. Like, I mean, it's
irrelevant. It is
and
right.
gender's irrelevant, and what time and place in history you lived is irrelevant. I couldn't agree more. If you could learn from somebody something from somebody, then learn. Like, be open to listen and learn. Like, and I don't care how old they are. You're totally right. This is what I said. Like, this was what was bothering me is like, I knew that this shouldn't bother me, and that's why I was writing about. But now this is why we talk
I
about
mean,
these things, because you help me
we're
even
talking about the
further
guy who's a
to know this.
pastor yesterday about the book of five love languages. To me, it makes no sense to me. So
Right.
I pass on
That's not
that book, right?
right.
So I mean, like I said, I have not read Brianna's 101 essays and whether or not those things resonate with me. But I'm saying is, um, if it resonate, use it. If it don't, move along. Just
Yeah. No, no,
there's nothing to it, and don't hold yourself to say, hey,
I
this
agree.
person don't qualify, Chris don't qualify, True don't qualify. Well, you're just missing out just because. I mean, I'm just saying that it's not a universal thing. People think that everything has like a universal rank or
Right.
order or whatever. Hey, this guy is better than that guy. Well, that's not how the world is. The world is so dynamic that you know somebody, an elephant is a huge animal, but then it yields to a little mouse.
Right.
I mean, I mean, right? You pit again an elephant against a cat, right? An elephant's gonna stomp on the cat without a blink of an eye,
Right.
right? A cat goes to the mouse, right? The cat gonna chomp on the mouse without a blink of an eye, and the mouse goes to the elephant, and the elephant, what?
Yeah,
It's,
but 5,000 rats in one spot is going to probably be bigger than an elephant, and probably
but
take it
that's my
down,
that's my that's even more proof, that I'm saying, life isn't black and white.
Right,
There's so many shades in between. So don't try to put in between, this left side, the right side. It's not going to be like that. It's not this kind of environment that we're talking about.
right.
It's very, very fluid and very dynamic. And
Yep.
so that
You can
is
learn
what
something from everybody is
that
the
is its
bottom line.
life.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you can learn something from everybody has lessons
Or you
to
can learn,
teach.
learn wrong things from like the gurus of the
Right, right.
world, right? I
Yeah,
mean, they say, your purpose in life is to serve the government, to serve, whatever. You are the slave of you're the cog in a big
right.
machine. Like your job is, that's what they teach over in like the third world country. That's, I mean, talking about like Korea, talking about North Korea, talking about China,
Yeah,
talking about these smaller country, even in like the Middle East. I mean, that's what they're being taught.
right,
You are to be the slave, and these are the prophets or whatever. They taught you that's the way to live your life. You give up yourself to this greater cause,
right.
right? And they telling you that's when, if you say, well, these are the great philosophers, and these are great wisdom, of our generations. You listen to them, your life is whatever you made of it. I mean, like I say, it's not to say that a young person can teach you something. You can't learn from them, and you
Everyone,
can
you can
you
learn from
can you
everyone.
can learn the wrong thing from the person that supposedly, the person that, yeah, has the most wisdom.
I mean, wasn't it like Nietzsche that like influenced Hitler and shit like that? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, and I
Yep.
mean, like it's so I may be totally wrong about that, but I think that's right actually.
I
But
mean, it
the
sounds feasible, yes.
the or Karl Marx with the Gulag, and the Gulag Archipelago, like
They
the
they
second book.
all they all came from the same source.
Right, right. So the actually that's really interesting you just said that because the book I just started today was this book called you ever heard of the long tail before? Like you ever heard of the idea of the long tail?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what it is? I mean, I don't know if you know what it is. I can explain a little bit,
I've
but
heard of it before. I think in many different references. I just don't remember exactly the definition, but
so
um
it's about like hits versus niche. So it's like the hits are the big portion of the head, but like as you go, the long tail is like all the little singles and doubles, and like if you're looking at like music, yeah, Michael Jackson may sell you know 10 million albums in a year, but like if you just added up all the albums and all the music and all the content
mhm,
out there, like it's gonna the long tail is actually way more than in totality versus one individual one is maybe only onesie twosie 3 or 4 songs or CDs are sold or whatever it may be, right? Or Spotify music played or whatever it may
right,
be, but the
right.
but the long tail adds up to way more, and it's infinite. The tail is infinite. Like there's always going to be content for somebody. The reason why I was bringing that up is philosophy in a lot of ways is like the long tail. There's a lot of hits. There's a lot of big names. There's a lot of Nietzsche's and Rousseau's and Socrates and Plato's and right, like, and people that have impacted a lot of people throughout the centuries. Well, today and age, today the long tail exists. There's dudes like Adam Grant and Simon Sinek and Brianna Wiest and us, and everybody has a platform now to talk about their philosophy and to share their way of living with the world. And like and it's infinite almost, right? Like every single person has a philosophy and they have a platform to go share that on. So like when we talk about philosophers and why we hate philosophers so much, it's because it's like there's like 10 of them that we've talked about for forever, you know what I mean, and like we study them in school and they are the hits, like when if you have like a TV show back in, it's like when you had TV back in the 50s, like you only got to watch 2 TV shows, right? So everybody was like it dominated the mainstream culture, right? But the long tail of obviously content on television and music and every other medium is way more massive out there in this world. So like this is like Brianna is a great example of the long tail, right? Like she got filtered up to me because of probably stuff that I was clicking on Amazon, and that's how I saw this. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. I ended up buying her book, and someday our book, maybe when we turn this into a book someday, maybe only 2 people ever see it, but we're one person, we're 2 people out there in the world that somebody bought our book, right? Or something like that, and they were impacted by the words that we had, and you have the smorgasbord from philosophies all over the world now to go choose from, which is pretty cool. Like, once again, it goes back to what you were saying. Like, if somebody's willing to share their thoughts, like, listen, like, they may be totally wrong, and you may be a cheetah talking to a leopard.
That's the thing, and you're gonna have to judge for yourself whether or not something it is gonna resonate with you or not. Don't hold these dogma
Right.
of whatever society have dictated to you. Hey, a philosopher should be an old guy,
That we
white
study in college,
beard,
yeah.
right?
Right.
If you are going to take that and filter out all of, say, hey, just like, we were talking about the other day, if you go and say, well, these are the requirements for you to talk to me, right?
Right. Right.
And if you don't meet this requirement, you're not gonna get talk to me. Well,
You're
guess
not going to
what?
talk to anybody.
You're not gonna talk to anyone.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It is to be flexible in your requirements for considerations. But once you go into the considerations and you consider it and evaluate the context of whatever that it is that applies to you, does it resonate with you, and take that and decide, right? You decide more because it's like a Bayesian decision, right?
Mhm.
You make a decision with what data you have. When more data comes in, you retry the decision because there's more data now. You should make more accurate decision. So you retry your decision, and so you don't take, hey, okay, I got one piece of information and I decided I will do this, right? And then other information comes in, you still hold on to the same decision you made despite the fact of new data comes in that supports the other way, whatever other way is, right? So you don't want to be stuck in a decision you made and disregard any new information that comes to you at a later stage. So be flexible with your requirement, but allow yourself to readjust your decisions
Right.
as you go. Because if you say, okay, Brianna Wiest, I don't know who she is. She's not an old white guy, old dude with
Right.
white beard, but I'm not gonna stop me from checking her book out. If her
Right.
book resonates with me, then I pick it up. If it doesn't, then say, well, maybe not for me, maybe for another type of person. Maybe it's a some kind of bee or some kind of dragonfly or whatever.
Right. It resonates with somebody. I mean,
Right?
I like
It
right.
resonates with somebody. If I'm a beaver and they're talking about dragonfly or whatever, well, that's not a book for me, and I move
Right.
on and find a beaver book, right?
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, or it's okay to listen to a book about a cheetah and then figure out how you can apply that to your beaver life. You know what I mean? Like, you can do that as well. You can read a book about longtail, and we can go apply it to meaningful work and meaningful relationships and values. Like, I'm already like I already have my reflection. I just started the book. I already have my reflection in mind that I want to write about, because I had this epiphany moment. As I was learning about it, and I was like, fuck. Like, think about the short tail. I mean, the fat tail, the fat end of the hits. You got these businesses that of values, right? Like, they're like, we're gonna dominate your values. This is we know that we're, like Salesforce or something like that. These are your values, and you're like, wait a minute, you got 70,000 employees that work here. There's a whole lot of values that might resonate with other people, and you don't take advantage of that. There's millions and millions and millions and millions and billions of people with their own unique values, all over this world. There's a long tail of values to be had. Like, yes, Salesforce may dominate 70,000 people or whatever, and their values may dominate in this world in certain areas, or a particular culture or a business, or like Apple or something like that. Like, those are the hits, sure. But there's so many other people and so many other values and so many other, the long tail of values is impactful. I mean, so like have a platform to be able to support that, right? Like, I mean, that's exactly what we're trying to do, is bring out all those other, that's how Amazon became Amazon, right? They were like, well, there's a lot of books out there. Like, let's show everybody everything. I don't care if they only sell 1 or 2 of them. Like, it doesn't cost us anything to put them out there. What if we put out everybody's values onto our company platform, and it doesn't cost us anything to let people try to build their own cultures out of it, and then all of a sudden maybe people resonate with a particular value set, and like a culture starts to build up, and you have a hit. But maybe just a few people resonate with somebody else's values out there or something like that. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Like if somebody resonates, like that's what matters, right?
Right, man, because you want to self-organize. You don't want to organize yourself. You don't want to categorize things, right? Let
Right.
them self-organize. Just you think about it. You put all the values out there. The common value will attract the other common values, and the one
Sure.
that's gonna, are the opposite is gonna repel. And so you're gonna see groups forming by selection, not
Yeah.
by somebody say, hey, you know what? I think this, these people should be
Innovate,
there.
trust,
Oh,
customer
you
success, and this should go
should,
there. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Right.
no, no, somebody doing that. If you do that, you're wrong. Let them self-organize. Put them out
Exactly.
there, and they're organized, and that is the natural way to categorize things versus just arbitrarily decide one person decide whether this is right, this is wrong. You should allow free speech, you shouldn't allow free speech, should this be allowed to be posted, should that be allowed to be posted, blah blah, a bunch of BS in
Right.
in my opinion,
I
right?
agree.
Because who can be omniscient in a way that everybody's needs, because there's a cheetah, there's a sloth, there's a lion, there's a bear, there's a fish, there's a monkey, there's a beaver, and man, whose interest is it that you are trying to uphold, right? Among the whole community of the forest,
Right.
whose interest are you doing? It's yours. It's not the rest. So it doesn't benefit the rest of the group that somebody's doing it unless the group self-organize themselves into, hey, I'm an aquatic people. I'm going to a pond.
Right.
I'm more of a tree kind of people, birds and
Right.
monkey, be up
Let
behind a
them build their own
tree,
cultures, like
build their
in
own
yeah,
culture.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then you have cultural capitalism. Like then you can have like certain and people investing into that cult. They're like, man, they got something going on there. There's a lot of people
I mean,
that are
you
pond
talk
people.
you're talking about like in the animals, right? They rely, for example, like a lot of the ground animals rely on the birds to tell them when dangers are coming, because the bird will
Right.
fly, right? They will look up, hey, the birds are flying. There's no reason why birds fly. Those birds are basically the watchers, right? And those are the scouts, of the jungle world, and those we would call the culture capitalists. They have their own culture, but their culture provides a benefit to the other cultures,
Right.
right? And so these are the benefit you can um, you know, I guess interchange from culture to culture, but let them organize themselves into the groups that make sense to them,
Right.
because you can't say I'm the king of the jungle, I'm the alpha lion, the beaver, you need to give some space because the monkeys need to swim too. What the hell, the monkeys don't need to swim.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're this is an interesting twist of a conversation. So I actually really enjoy this one. Like this is why I love these conversations with you, because it's like it helps me to further learn on my own, lessons that I've already learned.
Hmm.
And I know you've mentioned it helps you to learn, as well. And like that's the whole point of all this, right? Like I mean, this is a really fun conversation, and off of a book that probably neither one of us would really enjoy. I mean, if we just, if we're just reading it just for the content, and we're like, what did you learn from the content itself? I would say not very much, but like, what did I learn from
Right.
the abstract, and applying it to our own life and our own culture and our own lessons? Like, we learned a lot. We had I mean, this is a good conversation. So, I mean, this is why I love this stuff. Like, this is great. So, I think I'm tapped out of interesting thoughts for Brianna and her book, but I appreciate her sharing her thoughts of the world, and I know this resonated with somebody out there, and I hope our
And that's all you need to know,
yeah.
because
Right.
whatever you do, it will resonate with somebody. It's not
Right.
gonna resonate with everybody. It's just that's just the way the world is. It's not gonna resonate with everybody, but it will resonate with somebody, and that's the point. Like the monkey doesn't care about what the beaver does. It just
Shouldn't care.
doesn't.
Shouldn't
It,
care.
it shouldn't, and it doesn't.
We're dumb monkeys, and we do care for some reason a lot of times, and we shouldn't. Like, you should not care. Like what,
because somebody whisper in your ears, hey, dude, those beavers, or they're going to take away all your female monkeys or something like
you're
that. It's like, oh no, I'm not gonna let that happen. And I'm gonna show him a thing or two how to be a
right,
monkey. Who's the boss around? That's the thing. It's all based on misunderstanding. I mean, there's no real threat from the reality of beaver versus monkey, or birds versus ants or whatever.
right,
It just this thing is the misunderstanding from some sort of a guess, or whatever, just imagination nightmares that you have. That, hey, these things could turn into something dangerous, and let me nip it in the bud before it becomes dangerous, right? Well, the thing is, you don't know. I mean, you think you know the future, but that's the point. Is no one knows,
right.
right? You don't know shit. I don't know shit. That's that's our philosophy.
Agreed. That's pretty good philosophy in my opinion. So, suck suck on that one, Plato. Yeah, yeah. We're coming for you. No, I'm kidding. No, that awesome conversation. Thanks for your thoughts. And
Likewise.
any final thoughts?
Final thought is be flexible in your quest.
I love it. That's good. I love it. Awesome. So the question we can leave with everybody is, how can you challenge yourself to let go of your biases and listen to what others have to say? Something to think about, and be more open to, and hope you enjoyed the conversation. We'll see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Good night.